When people discuss fan projects in this community, it's usually met with mixed reception. There are those who think that there's too much of it, and it may interfere with the quality of fan projects as a whole, especially since there are a lot of lackluster pieces of fanfiction and artwork. On the other hand, there are those who love fan work so much that they really could care less if it was actually bad. Hell, if anything, there are people who actually like fan work more than the actual show that inspired it. It's still an ongoing debate today, and it seems that we'll never get a clear answer on what can be identified as a universally good fan project. That is until Warpout came along announcing his plans for a fan animation based on the hit fan-made song, Lullaby for a Princess. Through a number of rough drafts and animations, this is a fan-made project that has been in the works for 2.5 years. It was finally released at the very end of May this year, and in 1 month alone, it has gained nearly 2 million views. So, was it worth the wait? You bet your ass it was! For those who've heard the song before, the premise isn't anything new to them. The story tells the legend of Celestia's battle with Luna, who transformed into Nightmare Moon, through the perspective of Celestia herself. She sings a distant lullaby to her sister as she lowers the moon on that day, while having flashbacks on events that led to the tragic fate of the family that still remained. At first we just listened to the story, but with this fan animation, we see the story. One of the best things about this project is that it adds a visual perspective to the story that the song tells, which is far more unique than just listening to the song on its own. It adds detail and weight that many of us probably didn't think about when we first listened to it. Sure, we can understand what Celestia is going through, but it's even more engaging to actually see what happened and what she's going through as she sings her lullaby to Luna. One thing that many people may notice is that one verse from the song was cut out, making the song shorter for the project. Honestly, I actually think that the project is a lot better for it. In between the parts that explain Celestia's rise and Luna's grief, nothing could have properly been added in that verse that would have furthered the story. Warpout knew exactly what needed to be left out, and the project is even stronger for it. The animation? Fucking amazing. A lot of people expect the traditional Flash animation style to be used with these fan projects, but it's easy to see that Warpout and his team went with their own style that does have some Flash in it, but isn't the same style as in the show. Most of it actually includes traditional 2D animation, and seeing it mixed with this different type of Flash helps to give the animation of this project its own identity. Now for the direction of the animation itself. I don't know if it was Warpout or someone else in his team, but whoever directed the artwork for this really knew what they were doing. Every single second of this project is breathing with life. From the speed, to the colors, to the lights, to the shadows, the lights, the angles, the impact of every single frame. It's absolutely breathtaking. The visuals and the animation style also fit the music and the vocals of the song extraordinarily well. It's practically a perfect match. Aside from just the look of the animation, there's also a lot of notable detail in this project as well. One particular example comes from the scene where Celestia tries to comfort Luna. For a split second, we see that there's a spilt shattered glass in the corner of Luna's room. Anyone could say that it's just a spilt shattered glass, but it adds more to the story as well as the frustration of Luna's character. The glass can be seen as a representation of Luna's anger in that it shows that she could have been in a fit of rage where she resorted to breaking her belongings out of her growing jealousy towards her sister. It adds detail on how Luna is struggling with her emotions, and it makes her side of the conflict even more engaging. Transitions in between scenes are also excellent. Instead of just moving through a basic white flash, there are a ton of creative ways that the project transitions to the next part of the story that Celestia tells through her song. The light of the sun blinding the viewer just before we cut to the far plane that's beautifully similar to the one Twilight was taken to where she became an alicorn. As Luna shuts herself off from Celestia, the camera zooms into her cold, hate-filled eyes as we see the darkness inside of her transforming her into Nightmare Moon. While Celestia walks away from Luna's chambers, the camera looms upward to an eclipse and zooms into it, taking the viewer forward through time into the climactic battle between the two sisters. As Celestia is consumed with guilt and grief over what she had just done, the sadness in her heart clouds her thoughts with darkness, and the camera moves upward, taking us out of the flashback into present day. Celestia sings the final verses of her song into the distance as we zoom out of the planet onto the surface of the moon, where Luna rests alone, waiting for the day that she can return home to her sister. The creative uses of these transitions add even more life to the story, and it makes the emotion of it even stronger. There's also notable sound effects during the battle between Celestia and Luna that adds more impact to the fight. They're not loud explosions and crashes as much as they are quiet echoes and roars of the battle, which doesn't interfere with the music or the singing, but it adds just enough to increase the engagement of what's happening on screen. Each blast and physical hit makes its own impact, which adds more of a three-dimensional feeling to the fight sequence. The best part of this animation by far is its facial expressions. When I say that the animation enhances the experience of just listening to the song on its own, it's the facial expressions of Celestia and Luna that prove me right. As the story progresses, we see both sisters going through different stages of handling their frustration towards the situation, and we see clearly how they feel with virtually no dialogue coming from either of them. We see Celestia's fear of losing her sister. We see Luna's growing hatred for her. We see the guilt that Celestia feels that she couldn't prevent Luna from transforming into Nightmare Moon. We see Nightmare Moon's rage as she's ready to finish off Celestia. We see Celestia's regret that there was no other option left for her and she was forced to banish her sister to save the world from eternal night. We see Celestia's hope that someday soon she'll be able to reunite with her sister. All of these expressions add so much emotion to the project, and it adds more to the background of both princesses that, even if they're not canon with the show, which I'm fully sure that they are, increases the engagement of their story more than the show itself. Lastly, I know that this has nothing to do with the project itself, but I believe the time of its release couldn't have been any more perfect. The way I found out about this project, believe it or not, was through a DeviantArt journal on Golden Fox's account. I was hoping to see some uplifting updates on Keyframe's situation, and he was happy to announce that she had gotten the help that she needed. On top of that, he shared the video on the same journal, which took me to the project itself. As I finished watching it, I was fucking stunned. Not only had I just experienced what was without a doubt the best thing to come out of this fandom, but it came out just around the time that we learned that Keyframe was going to be okay. It feels as if Warpout knew that this was the perfect time to release this project that we've all been waiting for, as a reward for all of us for staying so strong throughout the ordeal, and an even greater reward for Keyframe for staying stronger. We all contributed something for the cause, and I believe that Warpout releasing his project for Golden Fox to post it on his DeviantArt for me to discover it through that journal is a perfect example of the phrase, "Good things come to those who wait." Both for people who waited patiently for 2.5 years for this project, and those who waited for the good news that Keyframe would be safe. People, we gotta increase the views on this project, because you know what? It fucking deserves it. I don't care if it has 2 million views, it deserves 20. Hell, it deserves 50. A project that took 2.5 years to make that was completely worth it. All that time was put into an immeasurable amount of effort and passion that led to the magnum opus of fan projects for possibly any fandom for anything out there. Not only is it brilliantly animated, not only does it brilliantly add depth to the original story of Celestia's conflict with Luna, not only does it make the song even more groundbreaking, but Warpout's Lullaby for a Princess stands as a symbol of what it truly means to put your all into something to show your love for what inspired its creation. It's one of the things that makes me more than happy to have become a fan of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and it's one of the things that makes me more than proud to call myself a Brony.
May all your dreams be sweet.